The Barber's Wife. There was once a very clumsy barber. The poor man could never cut someone's hair without cutting off a bit of his ear, or shave a man without leaving gashes on his face. Few people came to him, and his family was extremely poor. One day, the barber waited all day for customers, but no one came. His wife was very angry when he went home empty-handed. "There is nothing for us to eat tonight. I wanted to buy some food, but you tell me that you have made nothing all day," she said. As she stamped out of the room, she cried, "If you can't earn money, then go and beg for some." The barber thought this was a good idea. The king was getting married that day and would be sure to be generous to his people. He set off for the palace. At the palace, he bowed respectfully to the king and begged him to give him something. The king was amused and ordered his minister to grant the barber some waste land outside the city. The barber returned home delighted. "Well?" asked his wife. "What did the king give you?" "Some land outside the city," he replied. "Oh, you foolish man!" she exclaimed. "Since when have you become a farmer, asking for a piece of land? What are we going to do with it?" When her anger had cooled a little, they went to see the land. It was a large patch of uneven ground. The woman shrank with horror at the thought of the work they would have to put into ploughing the land before they could plant anything on it. But she was never without an idea for long. She ordered her husband to imitate her movements, and soon they were both walking slowly over the land, their eyes on the ground, as if looking for something. A band of robbers was passing that way. Their leader approached the wife and asked her if they had lost something. She pretended to be startled and said, "Oh, no, nothing at all." When the robber insisted, she took him aside and said, "My uncle died a week ago. Before he died, he told me that he had buried 5 pots of gold in this field. We are trying to find them, but you must promise not to tell anyone." The robber swore that he wouldn't and left. Soon the barber and his wife returned home, the wife in high spirits. When the two went back to the field the next morning, every inch of it had been dug. The barber's wife chuckled as she explained what had happened. "I knew the robber would tell his friends what he had heard. The poor things must have spent all night digging up the field to find the gold. Now, all we have to do is plant some grain." She bought grain on credit from the corn merchant and planted it. The harvest was magnificent, for the land had been well dug. The barber's wife sold the crop for a large sum, and they started living in comfort. But the robbers were very sore about being cheated by the barber's wife. They waited for an opportunity to take revenge. One evening, as it was getting dark, their leader slipped and hid himself. But the barber's wife saw him. She went into the kitchen, took a shallow bowl, and filled it with garbage. On top, she put a layer of sweets. Then she whispered to her husband that as soon as she was in bed, he must ask her in a loud voice where she had put the money. A few minutes later, the barber came into their room and asked, "Where have you put the money? I hope it is in a safe place." His wife replied, "Don't worry. I have put it at the bottom of the bowl, which has the sweets. No one will ever find it." The robber smiled and waited until the two were asleep. Then he crept into the kitchen and made off with the bowl of sweets. You can imagine how angry the robbers were when all they found in the bowl was kitchen garbage under a layer of sweets. They swore that they would not rest easy until they had robbed the barber's wife of the money. When summer set in, the days were hot and the nights were cool. It was more pleasant to sleep outdoors than in a room, so the barber and his wife put their beds in the backyard, where the cool night breeze brought on a deep sleep. That night the barber's wife dreamt that she was riding in a palanquin. It was very pleasant indeed. She opened her eyes. To her surprise, she realized that she wasn't in a palanquin at all. Instead, her bed was being carried away by the robbers. "What shall I do?" she thought. "I really have been trapped this time. I can't expect mercy from them now." Then she heard one of them say, "Oh, she is so heavy. My shoulder is beginning to hurt. Let's put the bed down for a while." They placed the bed under a banyan tree, laid down, and dozed off. The woman knew this was her chance to escape. She arranged the bedclothes so that it appeared that she was asleep. Then she climbed up on the tree. She bundled herself up and crouched on a thick branch. Just as the robbers began waking up, she began howling in a hollow voice. In the silence and darkness, the sound was terrifying. She had wrapped her face and arms in her white shawl and now let the ends flap. The robbers saw a white figure sitting on the tree, flapping its wings and howling. They were certain that it was a ghost and that the tree was haunted. Scared out of their wits, the robbers took to their heels. The barber's wife could hardly stop laughing. She climbed down from the tree leisurely, picked up her bed, and walked home. The robbers were never heard of in the neighborhood again.